presidency, states are getting ready to discuss the text. For the first time, the integrated text provided by facilitators and produced by the French presidency of the co-op. We'll see how this takes place today and what will happen in the coming days at this meeting.
It's now after 1 o'clock in the morning on the 10th of December. This is actually the 11th day, although this is the update on the 10th day of the co-op, 9 December. On 9 December, the president of the co-op, Laurent Fabius, on behalf of France, the host of the co-op and the presidency of the co-op, and the state parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, presented a text that he suggested could be the starting point for the very final negotiations on what will be now probably called the Paris Agreement. The text contained just over 26 articles, some terrors and bis articles in between. Most countries found some fault with the text, but as one of the countries, or Malaysia, for the like-minded developing countries said, there was a lot of disagreement on both sides of the fence. So both developing countries and developed countries had some problems with the text, and he suggested that maybe that is the text finding a middle point that is acceptable to all. In any case, states have continued their negotiations now after midnight. The plenary ended just before midnight, and then the president said that they would start again dealing with some subjects at midnight and continue at 1 o'clock in the evening. Although most civil society observers have gone home because again we're locked out of the room despite the repeated assurances by the chair or by the presidency that this is a open and transparent co-op, civil society is still not allowed in the negotiating rooms. We're only given updates. They do share the text with us, the text that is brought out by the presidency now, but we are not allowed to go into the negotiating rooms and hear what is happening in the negotiations. Even states are only allowed 4 tickets per negotiating room, and there's a quite large overflow room, but again, civil society, observers, even intergovernmental organizations are not allowed into that room. As for the text contained an odd mix of ingredients, although a number of developed states found it acceptable to them, at least in part. A number also complained that the text seems to weaken the principle of common differentiated responsibilities. It does that by putting a clause at the end that interprets those responsibilities in accordance with the national circumstance of each country. There also seemed to be a problem with the fact that the text does not clearly state that it is under the convention, and that is something several states insisted on. Also, the lost damages provisions were very vague. Although the Warsaw International Mechanism for Lost Damage was reiterated, very little is said about it. Several states asked that more be said on that. And probably the largest number of states complained that although the 1.5 degree temperature limit is mentioned in the text, it is mentioned usually alongside 2. Still, the text has more than 100 brackets in it, and those will have to be determined whether or not choices are made about should and shall, or even the elimination of paragraphs. So it seems like we still have quite a long way to go and quite a little time to get the rest of the distance we have to go. What will be interesting to see is how the presidency deals with this. In the past, they have drawn up their own texts and tried to get the parties to adopt it by saying that it has to be done today, and by playing the card that they do not want to be embarrassed. And of course, no country likes to be embarrassed when they are hosting any international meeting. Let's see what happens.